good for you. Come on. We'll think of another place. Come with me. Let's have a smoke break. Nah, not just a normal break. It's smoke break. Smoke break. Smoke break.
30 seconds and counting.
There were plenty of years where there were guys who would dread being drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Not anymore.
Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds.
Brandon Beane realizes they're in a window of 2 to 3 years max to get this done while the iron's still hot. And getting Von Miller into that situation was big for the Bills.
10, 9.
Oh, baby.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Great interview, guys.
Oh, ho, ho, baby. Good morning, Bills Mafia. What is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you, live on a Sunday morning. And it is the Smoke Break, powered by BetUS, where the game begins. Receive a 125% sign-up bonus in the link in the description below. We're getting after it early today, folks. You want to know why? Because it's a potential clinch day. You heard that right. You've heard it all week, and it's finally here. The Buffalo Bills, who not even a month ago had a 14% chance to make the playoffs, stroll into Week 17 with a 91% chance and a very feasible opportunity to clinch a playoff spot by the day's end. So we gather this morning to run through the scenarios and make sure that everybody in Bills Mafia knows exactly what they're rooting for today and how our Buffalo Bills can head into 2024 with a playoff spot locked up. There's more to the scenarios than meets the eye. In fact, I, for one, didn't realize until later in the week that there were more scenarios than just the one we've been talking about all week, and that's Bills win, Chiefs win, Seahawks win. There are other possibilities at hand today, and we could very well know going into the 4 o'clock games, the variety of different scenarios at hand that the Bills could have play out in their favor to lock up a playoff spot for them today. Good to have you in this morning. Z-Bot here with you on the Smoke Break. Just a quick one this morning. We will be doing our traditional pregame show at 11:45, so don't miss that as well. Me and Rev, 11:45 on the dot. We'll be going live, and we'll be diving into the Bills-Pats game specifically. This morning, I wanted to talk more about what the Bills have in front of them today and how they're going to be able to clinch a playoff spot by the end of the day. I couldn't wait till 11:45. I'm just absolutely jazzed up. I have a full Bills jumpsuit on right now. I am Buffalo blue from head to toe right now because I remember where we were not all that long ago. It was just a couple of short weeks ago where it felt like these Buffalo Bills were all but screwed. In fact, after the Bills had lost to the Denver Broncos in the infamous 12 men on the field game, I remember titling my episode of the Smoke Break that Monday, "Done. Denver Broncos all but end the Buffalo Bills season. And the fact that we sit here today on New Year's Eve with the ability to clinch a week early, it will never cease to amaze me. Where we were as a fan base, where this team was, frankly, as a collective unit, was nowhere near where I thought we would be today. But what has unfolded over the last month has been a roller coaster, and we're still on it. But I got to tell you, sometimes you go on one of these rides and they suck. They get you to vomit. They get you to beg to get off. I hate this. It's kind of how I felt in the beginning. But as this ride's gone along, I've enjoyed it more and more and more. More loop-de-loops, more corkscrews. I've been digging the latter half of this ride. And today, of course, we can really hit that major up, right? Up. And hopefully, when I say going down, I mean going down in a fun way, not going down in the sense that we crash and burn. Anything but today. So a variety of scenarios are at hand, of course, for these Buffalo Bills. Today, we're going to go through all of them. And what I found to be interesting is the factors that play within these games that might not be something that immediately hits you when you look at the teams. Because as we know, going into today, the variety of teams starting backup quarterbacks is extraordinary. It feels like it's almost half the league at this point is trotting out a backup quarterback. Some are absolutely lighting the league on fire, like Joe Flacco. Guy was mowing his lawn on Sunday afternoons a couple of weeks ago. Now he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And, you got Gardner Minshew, who's been playing real well all year. You have a variety of these backup quarterbacks who have their teams in playoff contention. But you also have a variety of backup quarterbacks who are in position to either, become a hero or ultimately be one of the reasons why these teams fizzle out. And that just might play in the favor of the Buffalo Bills. And when I say in the favor, I mean that fizzle out part, where you look at a game today like the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Carolina Panthers, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguars W all day. But Trevor Lawrence is not going to be available for the Jacksonville Jaguars today. I believe this is going to be his first ever missed start, meaning C.J. Beathard is going to be taken over. We just watched this Carolina Panthers team last week go toe-to-toe with the Green Bay Packers, put up 30 points, took a last-minute drive for the Packers to get the W. So you look at that game, and for face value, based on what you've seen all year, you're probably thinking Jacksonville is going to roll. You pause, step back, take into consideration what's at hand. It might not be that simple. So why do I bring that game up off the top? Well, because that's one of the games today that actually factors into the ability for these Buffalo Bills to clinch, and I did not realize that. Throughout the course of the week, the Jacksonville Jaguars were not really a thought of mine, but they are a ingredient in one of the recipes that can clinch it for the Buffalo Bills today. Now, as I go through these scenarios, of course, you have to keep in mind, the Buffalo Bills have to take care of what they have in front of them before anything else. All of this is null and void if the Bills do not go out today as 14-point favorites and avenge their Week 7 loss against Bailey Zappi and the 4-win New England Patriots. The New England Patriots have 4 wins on the year. One of them was in Week 7 against these Buffalo Bills. The New England Patriots are coming off a very emotional, high-flying W against the Denver Broncos, who, after losing that game, have gone into an absolute tailspin. I still cannot believe what is going on in Denver. Russell Wilson benched and will be cut in this upcoming offseason. Talking about one of the biggest blockbuster trades in recent NFL history. Not even a full 2 seasons in, and it's donezo. And the last we will ever see of Russell Wilson as a Denver Bronco was a loss in dramatic fashion to these New England Patriots that are coming to town with Buffalo to play Buffalo today. And you wouldn't even have had to have seen that to know what you're going to be facing today. The Buffalo Bills, like I said, have already lost to these New England Patriots. They have been the most bitter rival the Bills have had, at least in my opinion, throughout my lifetime. Maybe not as much as of late. But you can't help but think that a Bill Belichick-led Patriots team coming into today that might not be a Bill Belichick-led Patriots team in a couple weeks wants to probably go out with a bang. And they have nothing to play for right now other than pride and spoiler. They've been doing a pretty good job of that. Spoiled the hell out of the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of weeks ago. Spoiled the hell out of the Denver Broncos last week. And let's face it, what they did to the Bills in Week 7 really threw a wrench into this season. We would not have been sitting on pins and needles as much as we have been if the Bills had won that game. The way the AFC has shaped up, just one game would have made a massive, massive difference in the month and a half long heart attack we've been living through with these Buffalo Bills. Had they had just pulled that game out like they should have, all of this would probably be null and void. Sure, we'd still be sweating the AFC East, seeding, but you'd be pretty comfortable going into today knowing that you're all but locked up. I sit here right now still feeling pretty comfortable, but it took a long road to get here. And the New England Patriots were certainly a major pain in the ass and a major reason as to why. So, as we get into it, obviously, keep in mind, Bills got to get it done today. 14-point favorite at home. I don't know how much more motivated they could possibly be. You got the whole season on the line. This might be the last time Sean McDermott coaches against Bill Belichick. Might be the last time this Bills team has an opportunity to beat the brakes off of Bill Belichick before he goes off to God knows where. This team embarrassed you in Week 7. What more do you need? All the motivation is there. I firmly believe the Bills take advantage of it, but they have to do it first. So with that in mind, we consider the Bills beating the Patriots a lock when we talk about these scenarios. I brought up the Jacksonville Jaguars first, and the reason I did, as I said earlier, is because I was not thinking of them as a team going into today that I had to focus on. They're not the biggest ingredient in this gigantic concoction we're trying to cook up today to lock in a Bills playoff spot, but they are one of them. And I find it more interesting today because Trevor Lawrence is not playing. You've noticed with the Carolina Panthers, who obviously have had a god-awful season, they've been playing a little bit better and a little bit better as the year has gone on. Usually that's what happens with teams who are as bad as the Carolina Panthers are. They start to finally get a little bit going towards the latter half of the season. And as you can see, over the last month or so, outside of the Saints game, I mean, they've really played teams close. One-score game against the Bears, one-score game against the Titans, one-score game against the Bucks, one-score game against the Falcons, one-score game last week against the Panthers. This is not going to be a cakewalk for Jacksonville at all. One of the scenarios that can get the Bills in today is a Jacksonville loss mixed with one of the following: a Pittsburgh Steelers loss to the Seattle Seahawks or a Cincinnati Bengals loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we're well aware of those two scenarios being baked in together. We've talked about it all week. If Pitt loses and Cincy loses and the Bills win, it's clinched. The Bills are in the playoffs. But I found it real interesting and a little bit, encouraging to know that that's not the only way the Bills can get in today. We've seen some crazy ass stuff happen in the NFL, especially over the last month. It would not blow my mind if the Carolina Panthers go into Jacksonville today and beat a Trevor Lawrence-less Jacksonville Jaguars team. That game also at 1 o'clock. So today is what I like to call a multi-screen day. Bills are on at 1 o'clock, of course, against the New England Patriots, but there's also several other factors that weigh in on how the Bills' season could potentially end that are also on at 1 o'clock. This game being one of them. Obviously, Baltimore playing the Miami Dolphins. I think it's one of the crimes of the year that game is on at 1 o'clock. You would think at the very least that game would be on at 4:15, but nope, that's on the same exact time as the Bills. As we know, that game doesn't factor in on the Bills clinching today, but it factors in big time on the Bills' opportunity to win the AFC East for a fourth consecutive year next week against those Miami Dolphins. So you got that game on. And then the other game at the 1 o'clock window that was not talked about, I feel like, as much this week as the other scenario is the Indianapolis Colts game. Now, the Colts have been a tough team to figure out. The Indianapolis Colts have had weeks where they look unbelievably, I don't even know what the word is, unbelievably above the expectation you would have for a team that's been dealing with injuries all year, and no one really thought much of them going into the season. But they have been firmly within the playoff picture all year long. All of a sudden, when I feel like when you start believing in these Indianapolis Colts, however, they start to disappoint you. They did that last week. The Indianapolis Colts are another team that are pressed up right against the Bills today in that 1 o'clock window that have a factor in the Bills' opportunity to clinch today. Let's talk about what happens with those Indianapolis Colts. So, like I said, 1 o'clock window, Indianapolis also plays today. And I feel like it's one of those rare weekends where the 1 o'clock window almost trumps the prime time. Not even almost. It does trump the prime time and the 4 o'clock games, in my opinion. The 1 o'clock window today is stacked. The Raiders play the Indianapolis Colts. It is in Indianapolis. The scenario that involves the Colts is either a Pitt loss or a Cincinnati loss. And those are the two ones you got to focus on the most today, because those are the two that seem to factor into every clinching scenario for the Bills. Both those games, by the way, on at 4 o'clock. What I do like about that is the 4 o'clock window is a bit weaker today, like I was just mentioning, but you got a lot to root for in the 4 o'clock window. Now, if one of those teams go down or both, and Indy loses, all you'd have to add on top of that is a Houston Texans loss as well, and the Buffalo Bills would clinch. The Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts right now are battling it out for one of the final spots in the AFC playoffs. Texans today do get back C.J. Stroud. That's going to be big for them. It's at home for Houston. They're playing Tennessee, a team that they are favored to beat, and in my opinion, are better than. Those two teams today, Indianapolis and Houston, both have the opportunity to help the Bills clinch today if both lose. And one of those 4 o'clock games goes the Bills' way, either the Pittsburgh-Seattle game or the Cincinnati and Kansas City Chiefs game. Now, I thought it'd be fun to go through today, just kind of each game, and see the likelihood of one of these scenarios going the Bills' way. Because a lot of the time when you're messing around trying to figure out a way to get these scenarios to work, it just seems unfathomable. But to me, that's not the case today. I actually really, I mean, obviously it's bias completely involved, and it's just pure overconfidence. I haven't really thought about this scenario today where the Bills don't clinch. I woke up today ready to clinch. Ready. I want to have the ability to have the stress off my back going into next week. And that's not to say I don't want that game to be huge, because as we know, that game's going to be huge regardless. If the Bills clinch today or not, that game next week is massive should the Dolphins lose. That can swing everything. The Bills can go from the 6 seed to the 2 seed like that. And if Baltimore has an early exit, I mean, we could be talking about a potential AFC championship in Buffalo should things go the Bills' way. At the very least, the Bills wouldn't play a road playoff game until that AFC championship if Baltimore should make it. It's a huge difference. We know this Bills team is better at home. We know the environment that we create at that stadium. It's night and day. And that's a huge factor. And that can all be determined next week just like that. So next week's going to be huge regardless. But you can't tell me that you wouldn't feel a major sigh of relief going into next week, knowing we're already locked up. If things go south today, total bummer the Bills don't get a higher seed. Total bummer the Bills aren't going to be playing at home in the playoffs. And an even bigger bummer that the Bills are going to lose the AFC East to Miami. But that is an easy pill to swallow, knowing, hey, we're in the dance. And about a month ago, I was thinking that this was out of the question, right? So that's where my mindset is at right now. I've been focusing so much on the Dolphins situation going into next week because, as we know, earlier in the month, that felt like that was the best and really the only chance for the Bills to be able to get it done. But the way the cards have fell, all of these upsets, I mean, everything has gone the Bills' way, it seems, up until this point. It is insane. I mean, we're talking about the amount of upsets that have swung in the favor of the Bills. The Denver Broncos going down last week. The Dolphins losing to Tennessee in the fashion that they did to even allow next week to have the possibility of being for the AFC East title. The Chiefs last week losing to the Raiders, allowing that 2 seed to open up. The Steelers, right, losing to New England a couple of weeks back, knocking them out of the picture for the most part. Cincinnati getting rolled by Pittsburgh last week, 34-11. I mean, there's been so many games that have gone the Bills' way. And you almost have to sit back and really bask in what's happened in order to fully understand just how amazing this month has been. I really haven't had time to soak all of that in because I've been so focused on just getting there. And the way my mind has been wired to get there, basically since the beginning of the month, is just win out, including beating the Dolphins, winning the division. But ever since this week has really started, I have mainly just dialed in on clinch today. And obviously the Bills don't control their own destiny today, but as we will go and look, these scenarios aren't insane at all. In fact, they're favored. A good amount of these scenarios are actually the Vegas favorites to happen. Now, we know the Vegas favorites as of late have been struggling. Bills were 14-point favorites last week against the Chargers. We know how that went. Kansas City Chiefs were over 10-point favorites against Las Vegas. We know how that went. Denver Broncos were over a touchdown favorite against New England. I mean, it has been upset city lately. But I'd much rather be on the favorite side, I would say, than having to sit back and pull for a bunch of underdogs. So, thank you to my favorite sponsor of the Smoke Break, BetUS. We're going to go over and take a look at BetUS and take a peek at what the betting lines are and kind of how it all stacks up today for the Bills, just so you can get a better look at, you know, the slate at hand. Because I know it always makes me feel better to look at these games and say, all right, you know, it's a pretty good favorite. It's a pretty big favorite. I like my chances. So here we are on BetUS, and we're going to take a look at the games that are going to be impacting the Bills today. Now, if you haven't checked it out, the Bills are going into the Patriots game at 1 o'clock as a 2-touchdown favorite. I think that's wild. I'm not touching that at all. 2 touchdowns is nuts. The Bills are certainly capable of beating the New England Patriots by 2 touchdowns. Hell, I was at the game where they beat them by 7 touchdowns. But Bills were 2-touchdown favorites almost last week, and it took the south end of the 2-minute warning to win the game. So, as much as I'm confident in the Bills' ability to win today, 14 points is a lot. But as you can see, the biggest factor, of course, today in getting any of this done is the Bills winning. They are expected to win with flying colors. While I have it right here, the game of the day and a major impact on the AFC East, Dolphins-Ravens. It's in Baltimore, and as it stands right now, the Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite. Now, that is the opposite of the Bills line, where I look at the Bills line and I say, that's a lot. I mean, I love the Bills' chances today, but 14 points in any scenario is a lot to lay. When I'm looking at this Ravens spread against the Dolphins, I'm thinking, man, that might be a little too light. What am I missing here? I got a Ravens team last week who just beat the living piss out of the best team in the NFL, so we thought, the San Francisco 49ers. On Christmas night, no less, in San Francisco. Brock Purdy goes into that game as the MVP favorite. They embarrassed that man. Beat the living hell out of the San Francisco 49ers in a way they haven't been beaten in a very, very long time. That game was over well into the mid-third quarter. And I got a Miami Dolphins team that scored 1 touchdown against a struggling Dallas Cowboys team, which, by the way, how about that game last night? What the hell was that? That was one of the craziest endings to a game I've ever seen. And it's funny. Sometimes there's teams that remind me so much of the Bills. And obviously Detroit's one of them where you sit back and you're just like, does this happen to anybody else but Detroit? It just felt like a Billsy moment. Detroit's winning the game for the majority of the second half until they're not. Dallas goes up 17-13. And then they go up 20-13 with under 2 minutes left, no timeouts for Detroit. And when I tell you Detroit walked down the field, I could not mean that more literally. This Dallas Cowboys defense is suspect at best. In my opinion, the last month or so, they have looked flat out bad. And that's why it's even more puzzling that last week, the Dolphins only scored one offensive touchdown with Raheem Mostert, with Jalen Waddle, both in which will not be playing today. Right? And it just sidebar, because that just gives me more confidence in the Ravens today. But that game last night, the Dallas Cowboys literally they basically grabbed the hand of Jared Goff and said, let me walk you down the field. We'll let you in. So they get in 20-19. And what would unfold would be some of the craziest BS I think I've ever seen in the NFL. How Dan Campbell, I'm at a loss for words right now. The management of that game on both sides. Some of the worst clock management ever by Mike McCarthy before this even happened. Allowing it to happen. Then Dan Campbell gets his opportunity. And they have this play in the back of their pocket that they can't wait to run. You could tell Troy Aikman was kind of tipping his hand a little bit, basically saying they've been practicing this all week. They're going to run it. Sure enough, they do. After they score the touchdown, go for the 2-point conversion. They got their big man, their left tackle, goes out for a pass. Jared Goff hits him right on the numbers. 2-point conversion's good until it isn't. Flag on the field for illegal touching. And if you haven't heard by now, major controversy over that. Apparently, Brad Allen, the referee, just flat out neglected to pay attention to the tackle who tried to check in as an eligible receiver. You can clearly see on camera that he did, right? And he just walks away. The whole thing is insane. So, long story short, they take it off the board, and Dan Campbell goes for it again. Offside, doesn't get it. So now he gets another opportunity. He goes for it 3 straight times, and the Detroit Lions lose the game. Crazy. But the reason I bring that up more than anything is because this Dallas Cowboys team is struggling. They should have lost that game last night. They should be on a 3-game skid. And I think it's got a lot to do with their defense. And this Miami Dolphins team could barely muster a touchdown last week against that defense. And this Baltimore Ravens team just took it to maybe the best defense in the league in the San Francisco 49ers. So a really light spread here, in my opinion. I love the Baltimore Ravens today. And we need them big time to keep those AFC East hopes alive. If we scroll on, here's the scenario with the Houston Texans today. As I said, they play the Tennessee Titans at home. CJ Stroud is back. They are a 4-point favorite. So that one doesn't lean into the favor of the Bills. We need an upset from the Tennessee Titans in order for that particular scenario to pan out. Now, it's nothing crazy. 4 points. Usually you factor in about 3 for being at home, which Houston is getting. So not a major discrepancy there, but still going to need an underdog to pull it out there if we want the Tennessee Titans to help us out. Exact same scenario in Indianapolis. We need the Raiders to pull this out in order for these two teams to help out the Bills today. They are also 4-point road dogs. But I got to tell you, similar to how I feel about this game, neither one of these would shock me. I mean, the way the Raiders have looked the past month or so, beat the hell out of the Chargers, put up 63 points on them, beat Kansas City last week. That's a team that can really sneak up on you, and they can beat you if you're not paying attention. And I have no problem in saying that I would not be shocked in the slightest if both of these outcomes went in the Bills' favor today. The only problem is you need both in order for the rest to unfold and the Bills clinch with those two teams being a part of it. I'd feel a lot better if you only needed one, but of course I would. So that's the scenario at hand for these two teams. Colts, 4-point favorite. Houston, 4-point favorite as well. If the Bills want help from either of these guys, Tennessee and Las Vegas are going to have to win as 4-point underdogs. But the scenario we've been talking about all week, and the one that I think is most likely, those two teams are both home favorites. What I love about the scenario at hand is the Bills have two teams who have maybe two of the best home field advantages in the league. Now, it hasn't been what it's been in the past, certainly with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we all know the Seahawks are a big suspect. But I'd much rather have these two teams at home than on the road. And if I need any two teams to be at home and have that, advantage, it would probably be these two teams would be up there. The Chiefs and the Seahawks would be up there. So here they are. Here's the two games the Bills absolutely need should Jacksonville not win, or should the Colts or the Texans not win. By the way, I didn't even check on that Jacksonville spread. Wow. So we are 4-point spreads across the board. They're all right here, back to back to back here. So the three teams that can help the Bills out in the 1:00 window here are all exactly 4-point road dogs. And I don't feel bad about that at all. Like I always say, you get about 3 points on the Vegas spread for being at home. So more or less, these are really, close games on paper. 4-point dogs across the board. So even though we're in need of underdogs pulling them out here, it's not like they're crazy long shots. It's not like you would need say you were in a different situation, not the Bills, and you needed a Patriots win today in order to help your playoff chances. It's not like you're banking on the Patriots to pull off a 14-point underdog victory, where betting $100 on the money line would win you $750. I mean, just to go to show you how big of a favorite the Bills are today, in order to win $100, you would have to bet $1,200. If you bet $100 on New England, you'd win $750. That's how big of an underdog the New England Patriots are today. It's not even close to that with these three scenarios right here the Bills could have go in their favor. But let's talk about the ones in the 4:00 window, because to me, those are the ones I feel like are most likely to happen. But of course, by the way, the more likely you feel like it is to happen, it's almost like those are less likely to happen. And you'll go to the end of the day and you'll look and think, how the hell did the Panthers and the Colts end up helping the Bills out today? I thought it was going to be Mahomes beating Jake Browning, and I thought it was going to be Seattle beating Mason Rudolph. Nope, it wound up being the Carolina Panthers getting their third win of the year, and it wound up being a backup in Las Vegas getting it done on the road against the Colts. I mean, wouldn't that just be the way it would go? But I'd like to think we get a little bit of chalk today, ladies and gentlemen, and we get the favorites to go our way. So here you have it. Pittsburgh on the road. This game starts at 4:05. The Chiefs game starts at 4:25, which is, I think this is fun to me, because the Seahawks game will end a little bit earlier than the Chiefs game. And I feel like both these games are going to be tight, come down to the wire. So you're going to be sweating both of these after the Bills game. This one should end before. Then you take that right into the tail end of the Chiefs game. So we got a lot on the line today. It's going to be a hell of a day of football. Bringing in the new year this way is going to be a lot of fun. So Seahawks, 4.5-point favorites. Mason Rudolph gets the start for Pittsburgh. We know he lit it up last week. Destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals 34-11. Nobody saw that coming. Can Seattle get one of those breaks where a team who wins a game maybe they shouldn't, in a fashion they shouldn't, carries that into next week riding a little too high and they underperform? That's what I'm kind of banking on. Seattle also, in benefit to the Bills, have a lot to play for today. I think if the season ended today, Seattle would be the 7th seed in the NFC, and they could very easily get bounced over the next 2 weeks if they don't do their fair share to continue to help themselves get in. Losing today would be a massive blow to the Seattle Seahawks. So they have a ton to play for. It's not like they have anything clinched up. It's not like they don't have anything to play for and they're out. They have a ton to play for. So you're going to be getting the A game out of the Seattle Seahawks today. And I don't know. Pittsburgh's a weird team. You never know what you're going to get, but I trust Seattle today to be able to, at the very least, bring this game close to the end. And the way I would see it, if you made me bet on it, pull it out. I just think Seattle's got a bit more than Pittsburgh can bring to the table. Yes, we saw an offensive explosion last week from Pittsburgh, but that was one of one. Pittsburgh has had no offense at all this year. And I just don't expect Mason Rudolph to put together back-to-back unreal performances, putting up mid-30s and rolling the Seattle Seahawks on the road. So I like where Seattle's at, but at the same time, Seattle's just one of those teams they're tough to trust. So we'll see. But it's weird to say. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is how I feel. I trust the Seahawks to beat the Steelers more than I think I trust the Chiefs at home to beat a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. I hope people have finally come around to accepting that, the Chiefs' struggles were not just some stint. They weren't just some anomaly that came around for a couple weeks and are going to disappear. This is what this Kansas City Chiefs team is. I'm sure you all watched last week on Christmas Day. This is a bad offense right now. It's not even a mediocre offense. It's a bad offense. I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders completed a pass in the second half, and they won in Arrowhead. That is absurd. I mean, that's a team, a division rival that the Chiefs have owned. And in a spot where the Chiefs can't afford many more losses if they want to play at home in the playoffs, something Patrick Mahomes has only done in his career, never played on the road. I mean, that was a huge game. And they couldn't do anything. And they had ample opportunity. They had an entire 3 quarters almost after going down 17-7 to right the ship, come back and win it. And they couldn't. And it was never close. I mean, they really never threatened the Raiders, who did nothing in the second half. This Chiefs team can barely crack 20 points. They can't move the ball. They can't score. And Mahomes can't save them. And it's really not a detriment to him. There's just nothing going on. You take away Travis Kelce, and they got nothing. And Mahomes can only do so much. You can only do so much when you have certain guys to throw to, and those guys just, for a lack of a better term, are bad. The Chiefs wide receiver core might be one of the worst in the league. How many games this year, including the Bills game, has that wide receiver core for the Chiefs cost them? They just don't have the talent right now on offense to magically overcome what we've been seeing. I feel like a lot of people are waiting for the Chiefs to just magically come back to what we know, them to be. People are waiting for the Chiefs to get to the playoffs, hit the switch, and they'll be right back to where they were last year. This team doesn't look like a shell of what it was last year. It would not shock me if the Chiefs got into the playoffs and got bounced in the first round, depending on who they were playing. Not playing well at all. 6.5-point favorites today against the Cincinnati Bengals. We cannot forget what these Bengals were doing before they got destroyed out of nowhere last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's go back and take a look at what they were doing before that game. Because with Jake Browning, they were dicing. In fact, I was getting a little bit worried about them creeping up on the Bills in the playoff picture because we know they own the head-to-head with the Bills, having beat them earlier in the year. I mean, prior to last week, this is what Jake Browning has done. These were the 3 games he was involved in. 34 points against the Jags in a victory, 34 points the following week against a playoff team in the Colts, beat them by 20. And then another overtime victory, putting just south of 30 points up in a comeback win against the Vikings. This is a team that can certainly win with Jake Browning, can certainly move the ball, and can certainly, score points and win. Last week, believe it or not, was more of the anomaly than the other 3 were. I got a 4-game sample size with the backup quarterback. 3 games, they were lighting the scoreboard up and winning, and out of nowhere, on a random Saturday night in Pittsburgh, they couldn't do anything. The Bengals always play the Chiefs super tight. Now, of course, you're thinking, yeah, that's because of Joe Burrow. It's funny. The more we watch this Bengals team, the more we start to understand that they're built to win without Joe Burrow. Obviously, Joe Burrow is the luxury. You'd much rather have Joe Burrow than not. But there's a difference between losing a guy like Joe Burrow, in my opinion, and losing a guy like Josh Allen. If Kyle Allen had to go in for the Bills tomorrow and take over the team and try to lead them, it'd be done. I would have zero faith. None. This Bengals team, however, it's just different. Joe Burrow takes you to another level, but Joe Burrow's not that type of quarterback to me that can completely take over the entire team's identity and win you a game solo. He's certainly going to propel your chances to win. But Josh Allen's one of maybe 3 guys in the entire league that I feel like can single-handedly dictate a game. Him, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes. That's why I think, and I've said this on here multiple times, and I still feel this way, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on the preview with me and Rev about the MVP situation. I feel like the MVP should be a rotating, almost like going to one of those sushi places where you take the food off the rotating wheel there. It should just be a choice of either Lamar, Mahomes, or Allen until somebody really surpasses them, or really makes a good argument to be in the mix. Because those are the 3 teams, or the 3 quarterbacks to me. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh, Jake Browning, he's right on par with Joe Burrow. What I'm saying is that team is built to win without him. I don't think these other teams are. We've seen what the Baltimore Ravens are without Lamar Jackson. Last year, he didn't play in December. They were a first-round exit. We haven't really seen what the Chiefs are without Mahomes because he's been healthy. And we haven't seen what the Bills have been without Josh Allen because he's been healthy. Josh Allen has started every single game since the tail end of week 18, or the tail end of, week 12 in 2018. So knock on wood. I mean, thank God we don't know what that looks like. Thank God. But you look at what the Chiefs are today with Mahomes, imagine what that's looking like without him. And you've seen what the Bills are susceptible to being this year with Josh Allen. Imagine what that would be looking like without him. So what I'm getting at is, as we go back and take a look at this game today, this Bengals team, despite being a 6.5-point underdog, this game scares me. Going into this 4:00 window, knowing we need the Chiefs to win, if the Raiders on the road could beat this Chiefs team without completing a pass in the second half, you mean to tell me a Bengals team that was stringing together nearly 30 points every game with this backup quarterback until last week can't do the same? So this is the one that scares me the most. The one thing I think we do have on our side is the fact that the Chiefs can't possibly have a mindset going into this afternoon that allows them to lose to a backup quarterback 2 weeks in a row on a national stage at home. My mind would be blown. It already is blown with what I've been seeing from these Kansas City Chiefs this year to begin with. That would take it to another level. As I was saying earlier, I think that they are what they are this year, and I don't think there's going to be a switch flipped. I just think this is who they are. They'd be even worse than who I think they are right now if they're capable of losing this game. The crazy thing is, though, I could see it happening. But there's something also in me telling me I don't know if they allow it to happen just based on how nuts it would be. So, for the Bills' sake, we have to hope Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes got it in gear this week. Figured out whatever they had to figure out to be able to just muster up enough to beat these Bengals. Because if they don't, look out. I won't even know what to say if the Chiefs end up losing this game. Falling to 9-7 would blow my mind. Then again, it wouldn't. It's weird. I'm in this weird, almost purgatory with this Chiefs team, where I'm kind of stuck with other people who are like I keep saying, waiting for them to turn it on. I can't. It's tough for me to get my mind out of that. It's like with the Patriots after Tom Brady. Remember, it was so tough to go into a Patriots game not thinking that they were going to beat you, just because you were so used to being beat by them every single time. And then finally, when the Bills had the perfect game in the wild card a couple of years ago, beat the ever-living piss out of them, it was almost like they eliminated the ghosts of the past. I still feel that way a little bit right now with the Chiefs, where I'm still waiting for it. I know it's not going to happen. They would have done it by now. But I don't know. This is the one that scares me the most. When we look into the Bills' chances to clinch today, this is the one that scares me the most. And who would have thought I'd be saying, Week 17, Chiefs at home against the backup quarterback, that would be the game that would concern me the most in regard to the Bills, clinching and needing a Chiefs win. But at the end of the day, they're a 6.5-point favorite. They're coming off a loss. They should be more motivated than maybe otherwise. And they still have a lot to play for. Both these teams do. So these are the two games in the 4 o'clock window that you'll be focused in on the most, of course, if the Bills win, because these two games can determine this afternoon if the Bills end up clinching. Just out of curiosity, by the way, thinking about doing this, I want to see, maybe we'll do it right here on BetUS. By the way, shout out to BetUS for providing all the odds here and giving us the breakdown on what the spreads are for the game today, giving us a little bit of a read as to what we can expect from these games, who's the favorite, and kind of how it leans to the Bills' favor, but also might have you, a little bit skeptical as well. I'm thinking about doing this though because it's going to add even more fuel to my rooting interest today. I'm thinking about doing a 3-team parlay. And we can call it the clinch parlay. And what is that? Chiefs money line, Seahawks money line, Bills money line. Let's see what that's paying out if we do 100 on that. All right, we're getting plus odds on that. We're doing that. Because, of course, we're getting killer odds on BetUS as you can get on anything. BetUS has NHL, NBA, obviously all of the football games for today, including all of the futures going forward for the rest of the year, including Super Bowl champion, who can make the playoffs, MVP, a variety of stuff for the NFL, basically everything you can think of, not to mention parlays like we're about to hit right now, teasers, straight bets, they got everything, not to mention the best customer service in the game, incredible boosts, including the 125% sign-up bonus. In the link in the description below, you click that, you get 125% sign-up bonus, and maybe you can tell me if you're so inclined on this parlay. So we got Chiefs money line, Seahawks money line, Bills money line. Not only does that clinch the Bills playoff spot, but it wins you a couple bucks as well. So let's lock it in. Wait a minute. Oh, I messed it up. How anticlimactic of me. Let's try this again. Just to make sure we get it all locked in. Bills money line, not a whole lot of value there, but we got to add it because that's our biggest rooting interest today, obviously. I got to log back in. Let's lock this down right now. Bills money line. Seahawks money line, Chiefs money line. Parlay it up. Laying down a Benji. Lock it in. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I think I'm doing something wrong. Clearly I'm doing something wrong. You want to know what it is? I think it's my keyboard. My keyboard keeps acting up like you wouldn't believe. Whatever. It's my keyboard. It's not, I don't know what's going on lately. I use the computer all day long. All of a sudden, the keyboard and the mouse will just disappear. It'll not work for like a full minute or two. And I got to just sit here like an idiot and wait for it to come back. As you can see, I'm hitting the button and it just goes away. It keeps happening with my keyboard. I have no idea. So if you want to go and do it, and it'll surely work for you because you probably have a working keyboard like a normal person, head over to BetUS, 125% sign-up bonus in the link below, and lock her in. While we're on it, by the way, one more quick word from BetUS before we wrap it up.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything anytime. sportsbook, casino, horse racing, live betting, and more. We have the best bonuses in the industry. That's right, get a 125% sign-up bonus. And to celebrate our 30-year anniversary, we are giving up to 30 risk-free bets, a truck, Super Bowl tickets, and more. Don't miss out. Play smart. Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
BetUS, where the game begins. Love it. Shout out to BetUS. Much love. I love being able to look. I love being able to break it down like that with the with the numbers in front of me, because it always makes me feel a little bit better. Or I'm like, all right, I don't love the Chiefs, but 6.5 point favorites, I can't deny it, right? It's like the Seahawks. I've seen this movie before, but I can't deny it. While we're here, by the way, before we wrap it up, and before we get into the pregame show in about an hour and a half or so, let's go to our old friend, the simulator, and just see one last time what the Bills will look like heading into next week if everything pans out the way we want it to today. Let's just do one more simulator because, as you know, I can't get enough of this. So let's go Ravens. Let's go Bills. Interesting on this one. I'm telling you what, I like the Raiders. I'm going with the Raiders. I don't know. I just feel I'm just feeling it. I can't go Carolina though. I got to go Jacksonville. I'm not feeling it. I got to go Houston as well. But I do like our scenarios for later on. I really do. I do like our 4 o'clock chances. So I'm going to go Seattle to win. I'm going to go Chiefs to win. And then I'm going to go Broncos with the backup. Craziness in Denver, but maybe it works out for them. They get that dead cat bounce. And then we'll move on to week 18 and see what is in store. Oh my gosh. So if that all happens this week and the Bills clinch, let's see what happens next week when that's all put to bed. Let's see what next week will lay out for the Bills in the playoff picture, who they might be facing. I've got a variety of different scenarios the more I go through these things. In fact, I was doing one earlier where I had all of the scenarios go the Bills' way today, and you'll never guess who the Bills would face in the playoffs should that happen. The Las Vegas Raiders. So if all of the things the Bills need today somewhat happen, Jacksonville loses, Houston loses, Indy loses, Chiefs win, Seahawks win, the Bills somehow play the Las Vegas Raiders who back it in. I have no idea how. Craziness. Let me go back here and show you. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? The Jacksonville game doesn't even matter, by the way. So if Tennessee wins today and the Raiders win today, which would then have the Bills going into the 4 o'clock window, only needing one of the Bengals and Pittsburgh scenarios to pan out. If that happens, and then next week, the Raiders beat the Broncos, by the grace of God, the Las Vegas Raiders make it into the playoffs. I have no idea how. But that would be it. Wouldn't that be nuts? Now, let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say, let's go back to reality a little bit more. It's looking more and more like it's either going to be Houston or there's a scenario where Indianapolis gets in as well. I think right here it would come down to this. So it's all going to come down to whoever finishes higher in the AFC South. So this game is basically a playoff game next week, and that would determine who the Bills end up playing. But that's for next week, folks. For this week, we got to focus on the task at hand, especially at 1 p.m. Beat the damn Patriots and beat them soundly. How many times have I told you, and I got to tell you again, just because I'm still sick to my stomach about it. I paid cold, hard, like earned U.S. currency, worked for this U.S. currency and spent it on Bills tickets to that game at Gillette and sat there amongst a bunch of sad-ass Patriots fans. And they were having the time of their life as Mac Jones just carved up this Bills team. And I mean, you could have offered me $1 billion, and I would have said no. There's no. If you said you can put up 10 grand, and I'll pay you $1 billion if the Patriots win, I'll be like, I'm not risking 10 grand on that. I'm gonna lose 10 grand. That sounds stupid. That's how. I mean, I'm still sick about it. It makes less sense today than it did at the time. How the hell that happened? So I hope to God the Bills are as pissed off and fired up about that as I am. I don't just want to beat them today. I want to beat the living shit out of the New England Patriots today. We do that, and then we move on to 4 o'clock, and it gets super mother effing interesting. Can't wait. And I also can't wait to be back with you. 11:45 a.m. Eastern. Me and the Revenator are going to be back here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel to preview that hopeful beatdown against the New England Patriots. So come back, join us just before noon. We're going to get into that game, talk about both sides, give our predictions, and dive into whatever else pertaining to that game. Interested to see how Rev feels about today's clinching scenarios as well, how he feels it goes. I'm confident. Try not to get too overconfident. I did that last week, and it almost bit me. Trying to keep a level head, but I'm confident. So there's that. By the way, one more thing. Super chat I missed, and it's coming in from Ian, and it's the best way to end the show. He's saying Super Bowl, baby. Can't get there unless we get it done today. So let's get it done. I'll see you guys at 1:45 to preview Bills Pats. Until then, enjoy the rest of your morning. Get amped, get a coffee, and you get your Bills gear on. And I'll see you in a little bit. Go Bills!
It's good for you. Come on. We'll think of another place. Come with me. Let's have a smoke break.